Peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. Uh, Going into the office today, so I had to jump on and do a live stream. I'm gonna get around to the Washington football talk. Not really a recap of the season, but just talking through a couple of things. Chase Young, Dwayne Haskins, no longer being around, and how we move forward. But just some quick boxing stuff. I didn't even check out. So, it was interesting with Ryan Garcia getting the win this past Saturday night over Luke Campbell. I was very interested to see what the big time outlets were going to say. I mentioned I'm a big fan of the DAZN midday show. I think it's 3 hours right now, 2 or 3 hours. But they have a daily show on Sirius XM Fight Nation with the Akin Barak show. You saw Akin Barak on they were on site Saturday and actually did a sit down with Kate Abdo. Kate Abdo is the fiance of Barak. So there was a crowd. There was a live crowd there Saturday night, and supposedly it was sold out. I believe 6,000 fans was what they had announced. But I just I thought it was interesting to hear how the DAZN people were going to talk about it, and they put some spin on it. They really didn't talk about any of his struggles. It was mainly just his perseverance, his resilience to get up off the floor and in the second round, and how he immediately stepped to Luke Campbell, taking away or eliminating the possibility that Luke Campbell would have pressed forward to try to get the knockout or whatever. I told you in my reaction video, I kind of didn't understand Luke Campbell's competitive spirit that night. But again, it is what it is, Like I said, I don't take nothing away from the kid's win. But it's just interesting to hear different sources talk about or assess, analyze, Ryan's performance. The other thing before I move on to the Washington football talk is just moving forward, what's next? Now, he's been calling out Tank Davis, Gervonta Davis, who has the 130-pound division below Ryan Garcia's lightweight. But he has the 130-pound WBA title. And then the 135-pound regular WBA title. Teofimo Lopez has the super version. And then that was a title eliminator the other night, the WBC lightweight title eliminator, with Garcia winning the interim WBC lightweight belt. But this puts him directly in front of Devin Haney as a mandatory opponent. They keep kind of disregarding that fight, not so much into fighting Devin Haney. He's calling out Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, that gets into the whole discussion, the ongoing discussion in boxing about ducking. I mean, I don't really know if it's a duck when you're going to try to face, another world champion in Gervonta Davis and an explosive fighter and a dynamic puncher and all of that. I don't know how much of a duck it is. You're just picking the route that you want to go. And I guess the reason why he wants to get at Gervonta is because Gervonta called his mother out of his name at some point in when their paths crossed. and he wants to handle that in the ring. So, that's that. But it's interesting that that Devin Haney could have this world title fight, and Golden Boy and Ryan Garcia, not really see any value in fighting for that world title fight, which he's earned a shot at, and they've spent time earning a shot at being able to to compete for that belt. But now you're gonna go over here and fight for a regular belt. And it all, and honestly, admittedly, it probably is more money involved in a Gervonta Davis fight with all the work that PBC, Mayweather Promotions, have done to build up, Tank Davis. It probably is more money in there. But again, who sits down at the table and negotiates this and gets it done to make the fight happen? But anyway, let me get on to this Washington football talk, man. I gotta pat myself on the back, man. I said at the beginning of the season, I think I did a live stream on here with Wale Akinzo, who is one of the co-hosts of the Urban Sports Scene podcast that you can hear live every Tuesday night. Just Google it. They've been doing it for years, so it's not hard to find. But Ray is another co-host on there. I think Will T is his name. I think it's 3 of them. I've been a guest on there a couple of times to talk boxing and whatnot. But I had Wale on. Usually he goes and covers the Washington football team live on Sundays, and has increasingly, had a bigger role the last 2 or 3 seasons doing that. So I had him on and we talked about it. And I said, they would be 7-9. And I said the key for everything was if they could get to 2 games from the New York Giants, which they lost both of, and then how they played Arizona and Detroit. They could go 9-7 if they they go 500 in those key games. And like I said, they didn't win any of those. So I felt like I had a good pulse on the team. Another thing that I told you that I've been talking about the last 2 seasons is, where are the leaders on the team? Who the hell leads this team on the field, emotionally? Like, who's holding other players accountable? Like, when you have a bad team and the game is over at halftime, regularly in most weeks, that's an effort. I mean, the coaching staff could be bad, they could, but that's effort and pride. And who has emerged as that leader right before our eyes is none other than Chase Young. And I said, him bringing that to the team, the playmaking ability, the athleticism, making game-changing plays. He had 4 fumble recoveries, of several forced fumbles. He had he took one of the recoveries to the house. 7.5 sacks in his rookie campaign. And you could just see the guy's always talking. He's always standing up on the sidelines, mouthpiece in, ready to go. I don't even know who the hell he's talking to. Is he talking to the opposing team's defense? Is he talking to our offense? Is he talking across the field to the other team? Period. But he's always talking. And that makes these other guys have to get his back. So the major thing here is this weekend with the playoffs arriving and the Washington football team hosting a playoff game. The big story was that Chase Young at the end of the game, or whether it was caught on camera or whatever, he said, I want Tom Brady with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming to town. And there's some talk out there. I guess Bruce Arians, said, sometimes you get what you ask for, blah blah blah. But the kid has nothing to lose. Like, we weren't even the Washington football team wasn't even supposed to be here. So again, this thing in boxing, like, it's When it's okay and when it's acceptable to talk trash and when it's not. Like, who cares? We got to play the game. We know who the game's against. It doesn't matter if it's Tom Brady or if it's Russell Wilson. We plan to win. We need to have an attitude that we plan to win. We plan to compete. I've been in it a couple times, a couple of discussions with Damian Adams of the Real Deal with Damian Adams podcast. He's not a fan of sub 500 playoff teams, division winners, hosting a playoff game. Now, it's been a couple of times where the NFC East has been that team. Sub 500 regular season record, bringing in a 12 and 4, 11 and 5, wild card game, wild card opponent, wild card weekend opponent. And I get it. Man, you gonna turn your brakes on? But it is what it is. We did the most in the NFC least, and we get to host this game. And I don't think it's disrespectful for the kid to say, I want Tom Brady, bring him on. It was going to be him anyway. So you might as well approach it with the competitive spirit. You might as well say what you got to say. Set and raise the bar for the team and let them know what the expectation is. We said that's what we wanted. Now we got to go out here and play like we meant it. Looking at the game, I know they've gotten the offense on track the last couple of weeks, and they've done some big things. I don't know what the status of Mike Evans' knee is or his leg. I don't know. I haven't looked up anything about that. But we don't have the home field advantage that you would normally have for a home playoff game. So throw that out the window. But Tampa Bay is a team that I've seen struggle this year. Now, the one thing that that isn't so much in our favor is I think a lot of our pressure comes off the edges more so than right up the middle, which is something that Brady has struggled with the last several years. So Jonathan Allen and Darren Payne, those guys need to step it up a little bit. The outside guy, the edge, getting these double teams and whatnot and getting that extra attention. We need that push. But this is a team that we've seen struggle throughout the year. Now, I mentioned this before in basketball. Even in the NFL, sometimes teams and championship teams, sometimes they're born over the course of the season. They on a weekly basis and become that. And maybe that's the process that Tampa Bay was going through. You obviously have, a top 2, top 3 quarterback of all time at the helm, even though he is, 41, 42 right now. But the offense has been up and down. There's been some weeks this season where Tom Brady wasn't all that sharp. He mismanaged the clock. He mismanaged the timeouts and whatnot. So, there's been some back and forth between Arians and Brady on the face of the team and bringing in AB, Antonio Brown and whatnot. So, their running game isn't, what's his name, Jones or something? Their running game isn't all that formidable. Defensively, I've seen them, kind of, just be another team in certain weeks. So it is, in my opinion, it is a very winnable game. I think the Washington cornerbacks haven't done a bad job this year, man. I've been a fan of Darby, to be honest with you. But the line does their thing. Holcomb running around at the second level. And the front four helping make life easier for everybody on the back end. So we'll see. The main concern is, we got to get out of this 17 or 20 point, this scoring 17 and 20 points a game. When we get behind, man, that dink and dunk stuff that Alex does, it just allows defenders to sit on those routes, man. And it just seems like it's dangerous with tip balls. a 4-yard pass all day long, and the possibility for it to get tipped up in the air, and and for it to be 2 and 3 defenders there to catch, to intercept it, or guys catching the ball and a defender driving on them hard and creating a fumble or something. Like we gotta go down the field a little bit more. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, and throwing these 4-yard passes. It was, what was it, 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15 this past weekend, and they threw a 1-yard pass. And I think I think whoever caught it almost made it to the first down or whatever. But I don't know, man. That dink and dunk stuff, especially once you get behind, it's just it have you sitting there as a fan watching the game on pins and needles, especially if you get behind. It is better when we can run, when the run game can set up the pass and maybe create those shots, those intermediate passes, and pushing the ball down the field. So we'll see. But like I said, all in all, man, I'm proud of the team. So much for being in the runnings for, Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields and whatnot. It might be another season. It could be very well be another season with Alex Smith. I know it's like a $13 million cap savings or something if they were to cut him. But hey, without a great solution currently on the roster, not really having a deep field in the draft and whatnot, it's kind of hard to be too decisive, right at the moment, especially with the guy who's led the team to the playoffs and whatnot, which was what he was in the process of doing before the horrific leg injury a couple years back. But I gotta run with Washington Saturday. They're 7.5 point dog, I believe. Who knows if that'll move or not. So we'll see, man. We'll see. All we can do is be optimistic and show up, be ready to play and give a hell of an effort. We'll see what happens. Really quickly before I get off here, I saw, I've talked about this before with the whole Outkick.com coverage and the writers over there. I think it was this article up there about Coach Rivera not handling the situation correctly with Dwayne Haskins, and said that there was a chance where he dropped the ball in changing the team culture, and he let the pressure of a black quarterback, managing a black quarterback, and how you can cut them and sit them and make decisions with the black quarterback, and the perception of it being racism and all of this stuff. And the dude wrote a trash article. And like I said, I think it's the Joe Kinsey cat that I talked about a few weeks ago with the Kerry Champion and Jamel Hill article. The article that he did on them about their show, Won't Stick to Sports. But shout out to the readers on Outkick.com, because they commented and told the dude that he was on some BS. Like, he really didn't commit to anything, but he tried to throw the racial component out there with Dwayne Haskins. And we all know, and I made a video about this, that I thought the pundits, on the TV pundits, they spoke on this situation correctly. It had nothing to do with race and black QB. It had nothing to do with none of that. You had an immature kid who was constantly making mistakes, and here's a team that has a chance to go on and be a playoff team, which is the first goal of every team, is to win the division and host a playoff game. And here they are in the midst of doing that, and you're out here at a birthday party, maskless and risking exposing everybody and breaking protocol and whatnot. Like, this had nothing to do with racism whatsoever. And the guy kind of floated it out there in the article like maybe he did because he gave Dwayne Haskins beyond the third strike. This is when I say when these outlets lose credibility, It was a lot of things that went into that decision, and to move on from a first round draft pick in a handful of games, and 15 games or whatever it is, 2 seasons, inside of 2 seasons. Who are you to tell the team what they should and shouldn't have done, especially without you being there, without you having interviewed Rivera, and specifically covering the team and maybe seeing what the day-to-day dynamics were, and where Dwayne Haskins was falling short. And they went out here with the perception, talking about how the team would look at how he could lose the team, or he could have lost the team. It was a BS. Like I said, he looked around and said, what can I talk about today along our constant stuff that we keep up on this website? And he wrote a BS piece. And I think it's all summed up with when he talking about whether or not Rivera lost the team or not. They showed the quote from Chase Young the other day at the start of the game, that Chase Young said, "I'm about my business and I'm all about football. That's all that matters. And anything, getting away from those 2 things, I have no time for it." And I said this last week when I did my reaction to Dwayne Haskins being lost. You could see the other guys on the team, the other Buckeyes, and McLaurin and Chase Young. You could sense or see they weren't coming to the defense of Dwayne Haskins, and it was no longer acceptable for his performance and his lack of production on the field. And them guys basically turned their backs on him and had to let him be what he wants to be. So it didn't matter what was going on with Rivera's decision. The team already had moved on from the guy. So the whole article and the premise of dude's article was trash once again. Anyway, man, I got to get ready to get on in here. Have a phenomenal day. I don't even know if boxing really has a fight this weekend. It might be, clear this weekend, and we get back to it next weekend, I want to say. But anyway, my name is Wood. Appreciate you rocking with me. A little Washington football talk, some boxing talk. We get into the wild card weekend. With the number 1 teams having the byes this week, being the only ones with the byes this week. We saw, the teams that rested their starters or rested, veteran QBs and whatnot. We'll have to see how that plays out. It hasn't always done well. It hasn't always ended well for the teams that chose to do that with resting quarterbacks. We saw Aaron Rodgers finish the season strong, playing against the Chicago Bears and whatnot. Roethlisberger sat. Mahomes sat. I thought there was one other person that sat. So we'll see. Anyway, man, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.